Hey folks, welcome back to Shadow Empire. This is round 57. I think we're on round 21 now. Sorry, episode 21, and let's look what happened in the history. Yeah, but we're starting to lose some of the territory we took. Rifle militia lost 300 troops, throwing themselves at our, I think there were bikes there, or militia. We lost 100 bikes there at the expense of 200 troops. Now, our bikes aren't really designed to do this job that I'm trying to do here. They want to be exploring, but I think we've got too many of these rifle militia troops here to encircle and defeat them. That said, I might be able to get an attack in with some buggies. I think I'm going to lose a lot of troops there doing that. Yeah, I mean, we can try encircling them and then waiting for something else to come up. I do think that they're going to keep attacking us and they will push us back. Yeah, got to be a little bit careful with that. I think what I might do is actually move those troops there. Yeah, something like this. I'll come back to that anyway, but I think that I really want to get these troops upgraded. I did have a quick look at the turn before I started recording, and I've noticed that we've started picking up rifle 3s now in some of these units. Look, the replacements are starting to get through. Our increased logistics size is really helping. So, yeah, VidCom. We discovered Siege Infantry Army, which is good. This is one that I like to use. Prospecting push, investigate leader, expel population, and support faction. Yeah, I mean, investigate leader might be handy at some point if we end up getting corruption. Spiring's always good. Plea of friendship's always helpful. Varrock domain. I mean, these guys they're friends in all but name. I think I'd say, our relations are so high. They just don't really want to push our relations any further into genuine friendship. We've got a national budget to do. We need to think about this really carefully. I don't think I need model design now. Let me just have a look at the other decisions first. Ancient statue discovered in Visor. Look, it's trying to push us into government now, and I really need enforcement. Now, government. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do the autocracy again. Kind of annoying, because it will start dropping meritocracy. Mind you, pleasing the populace and giving us 1 political point per turn would be really nice. That said, the credits, I don't think I can... 1900 credits is a lot. I think we're going to have to do that. Also, Burst SHQ commander likes this, and he's got a lower relationship with us. I think we're going to have to go with this. I'm wincing a little bit because we're hoping to get into meritocracy, but honestly, raising government at the expense of enforcement when we're desperate to get the regime feat discipline, I think is going to be a bad move. So let's get the money as well. Money, I mean, look, as you know, money's so tight in this game. That might have got me off the hook. Now, you'll notice here, when I looked in the overview of urgent issues, we've got no urgent issues regarding money, and that is because we managed to sell a whole bunch of stuff this turn. Our zone did, Kirkwall, nearly 300 credits, 30%, 50% sales tax. So we made a lot of money, and the income tax increases that we're doing has helped too. So we're actually in the green this month. We made, what's that? 140 something credits, or 130, yeah, 140 credits, somewhere like that. And you know my ability to do arithmetic is really shaky. Yeah, so Schwarzmark turns its Senate against us. This is okay. So Schwarzmark, they're over here, and we can actually see them a little bit now. I noticed this actually as I was finishing the turn the other day. So here's their zone, Friedberg. I think the reason why we've probably got... I think I put some spies in there a while back. Oh, we know it's not. We've got recon points on them. Where's that coming from, I wonder? I wonder if it might be something to do with... No, I'm not sure. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. They got an airfield, look. They've got High Command 1, Bureaucratic Office 1, Airbase 2. They're building High Command 2. That's interesting. And they've got like a couple of level 2, level 3 things. So they're not really, yeah. I I mean, look, they're 21 relation because they caught one of our spies. We can work on that though. We can probably play a plea of friendship card. Yeah. So anyway, Friedberg. They don't want to be friends with us. Do we send envoys to promote us? Now this would give us mind and meritocracy, or do we not meddle? We increase heart. Now increasing hearts sounds like, you know, do we need to do that? Well, rallying flag, 60% morale bonus. That's pretty good. I mean, look, morale is really important in the combat. Do you remember what I think what I'm going to do is, right, I'm going to do a video about the profiles. I know I probably need to go and watch some other, you know, people's views on it as well, because I know Daz has done a video on profiles that I've not watched. I'd quite like to see what other people think about this, but I think this is genius. And I think that there are certain things, like when it comes to combat, for example, morale's really important. Okay, you know, and this gives you a card, infantry attack 80%, this charge card as well. So if you go into heart, right, you can kind of mitigate some of the losses that you get if you don't have, say, I don't know, like fist, because fist gives you a direct combat bonus of 25%, right? But morale bonus is pretty good. Now this doesn't directly translate into the same kind of advantage that you'd get in combat. This is a direct combat advantage, right? But morale has other, you know, like for example, morale means that you can pay your troops less. So if you've got a huge morale bonus, you can you can really just drop their wages right down, because they're doing it for the love of things, right? I noticed this as well. I forget when it was, but I noticed that there was another one that kind of balances one another out. I think it's democracy. So where are we? Right. So for example, if you don't take commerce like I like to, you can go with democracy, right? And democracy gives you a 50% quality of life bonus. Now that's pretty nice to have. And if you've not got lots of quality of life buildings, for example, you've gone into, say, enforcement because you need money, like I should have done on this game, or you've gone into government because you wanted the bureaucratic bonus, then taking democracy kind of like somewhat counters that. And we've not even started thinking about the concept of timings in this game, right? So, you know, when, you know, for each, let's look at, I mean, the potential complexity is large, but let's think about for each potential planet that you're playing on, you've got certain timings that you might want to go for. For example, like if I'd understood this map better, I think I'd have gone enforcement first, or I'd gone into commerce and government, but then transitioned into enforcement earlier, so that so that I had an opportunity to make some money. Like, by the way, the game has just saved my ass with that statue scrapping. I don't know if that's hard coded into the game. It always seems like as things are starting to go wrong, something comes along to give you the opportunity to change it, and I like that. I don't know if that's just luck or whether it's the game's programmed to do that. But yeah, I mean, so there's the idea of potential timings as well. So for example, at the start of the game, I might want fist, right, to get the militia bonus, because militia is useful at the start of the game. There's no denying it, at least on most maps. Not everyone values it, but then you don't necessarily, like, after you've got like volunteerism, if you have the opportunity, it might be smart to switch into mind or heart. Now, you know, I mean, heart's not always the best one to go for, I'd say, unless you've got war early on. But having the morale bonus is nice. But I think mind's probably a better bet, because research is always useful, right? I think unless you're playing on a game where you've automatically set the text kind of high, and even then there's still technology to be done. So I think mind's going to be useful. Mind's got some weird stuff in it though, like for example curiosity, which gives you 40% cultural adjustment bonus. Honestly, I don't remember that being that useful. I think that's probably one of those things though, that when you've got it, you don't notice it working. And if you've not got it, because I usually go quite high into mind, and so I've never really noticed a big penalty from cultural adjustment when you overtake other cities. But you know, maybe that's a big problem. So yeah, I don't want this to be. This is meant to be a let's play rather than a Ben talks about game mechanics. But I think that this is something. This is a really, really, really intriguing part of this game, and it's a very, very, very well designed one. And I'm not I've been reading up on games design. Like I've been reading some books, and I'm doing an online course. I'm doing some stuff on game design because I talk about it so much, and I'm painfully aware that I don't really know what I'm talking about with it to some extent. I mean, apart from having a gamer's perspective, which I know is endlessly useful for the developers actually to hear to somebody who hasn't gone through some sort of game design training regime or had years of experience with it. be able to hear their opinions on, you know, what they think works and what doesn't is useful. But I actually want to get a little bit of, you know, kind of genuine knowledge about me. But even in my inexpert opinion, I can see that this is a really, really, really interesting. I mean, look, there is one tenet of game design that states kind of the, you know, I think it was Sid Meier famously said it, but I think it's been said before. Like, games are, you know, a series of interesting choices, and this is exactly what we're talking about here. Now, this does not mean that these games are that this system is like a finite state machine where you kind of say, okay, I've made this choice here, and then that's going to lead me directly to this choice. No, there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes on in Shadow Empire around it. So your choice of whether you go, you know, government, and then I want to go into commerce, and while I'm doing that, I'm going into heart and friendship, and into heart, and then I'm doing democracy at the same time, and then I'm going to switch. Like, those choices are also bolstered, or they're affected, should we say, by the other conditions of the game. So the planet, your opponents, how a war's going, whether you've got you know, whether you've got any money, whether you've found resources. All of these things go into these choices. So Shadow Empire is not bound by the limitations of a finite set of choices like you might get with a more rigid game. I mean, let's say let's look at something like let's look at Humankind as an example, right? And I know that this game a little, I haven't played it, but so for example, there's a choice that you make each epoch where you kind of decide whether you want to change your civilization from one, you know, famous civilization like the Egyptians, you want to switch it to, I don't know, like the Germans or something. Okay, so I'm just using this as an example because I haven't really played it. I've watched people play it a bit. So that's an interesting choice, right? You get to make this choice, but it's quite it hard locks you into a certain sort of game style then, I guess. Or at least within, you know, it gives you a certain set of options. Now, that increases replayability. What it decreases is your choice, you know, the choices that you make during that particular game, right? Shadow Empire never really hard locks you into anything. There's certain things, though, that it kind of, like, I thought it was weird, right, that democracy and autocracy were very, very, very easy to change during unrest events, yet meritocracy was difficult. Now I think that that's absolutely genius. Like, that's some asymmetry that is subtle, and yet I see people often saying, oh, I really like meritocracy, but it's so hard to keep going. It's like, yeah, but it's not impossible. And whether the game design of Shadow Empire in its current iteration, like whether the tools that it gives you really leverage those wonderful opportunities and asymmetrical decisions that you need to make. I don't know, sorry, decisions around asymmetrical systems is a better way of putting that. But I think whether Shadow Empire has fully given you those tools yet to really play with this stuff, I don't know. I think the game's so complex, it's difficult to really analyse. Like, for example, I think that Das Tactic made some criticism on the Matrix forums, which I've thought about, and I kind of agree, actually, that early on, some of the decisions that push you to, you know, they demand a certain profile to be raised up to a certain level. You're really relying on, you know, luck at that point as to whether you get those things. Now, I don't know whether Vic has programmed it in so that you get, you know, say if they want meritocracy up to a certain level. Has he programmed it so it's weighted so that it gives you more meritocracy, events come in? I don't know. I think he should. I think if you're going to get a demand where it says, we want you to increase meritocracy by 6 profile points within 12 turns. I think within those 12 turns, you need to have rubber banded into that a way of, you know, getting those meritocracy points. That doesn't include playing scrap card roulette. So, yeah, this is what I mean. I'm not quite sure yet whether the tools that Shadow Empire gives you really allow you to get the most out of these wonderful, wonderful asymmetric profile decisions that you get to make. You know, like, yeah, democracy and autocracy are relatively easy to keep going. You can kind of keep meritocracy up, by the way, during an unrest event, because you just ignore it. And that's subtly clever. Whether Vic intended this or not, I don't know, but I think he probably did, because I think he's smart, right? The way that you survive unrest basically is to have good leaders, which basically you should have if you've got meritocracy, right? Now, maybe this is my love for Shadow Empire clouding my judgment, and I don't know, it's possible. Maybe I'm seeing things that aren't really there, but I do think that this particular one is very, very pronounced, you know. I think it's incredible. Whether I mean, I want to give Vic credit. I want to give VR Designs Vic credit, right? That he knows what he's done there, and I think that's super clever game design on a different level to anything else I've ever seen, honestly. Because it seems subtle. It's like, let's say that you're somebody who's watching this game because you like to see me push counters around and and win wars and stuff, and you're just like, yeah, no, I kind of like the profile stuff, but it's not that interesting. Like, I think this stuff's really fascinating. I mean, when I was talking before about how, like you get to a Spirit Decor and you get 25% combat bonus, that's huge, right? But then, yeah, you can kind of get a decent combat bonus with high morale, with some of the stuff you get from, is it Enforcement? I can't remember which one it is now. Yeah, this one, yeah. So Martial Tournaments gives you 25% on your operational command rolls, right? So that's also, I mean, this is a hard modifier for combat. This is like 25% bonus on your combat roll. I think by combat bonus what he means is I think that must be applied at the end of the calculation after everything is done. That's what I would have thought, as a combat bonus, but it might be added to something else. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. But let's say that you've got a high morale. Let's say you've got a large 60% morale bonus on top of an operational command roll of 25. So you've got a decent commander, which you should have because of meritocracy, and he's getting 25% bonus on his war skill rolls. So let's say you've got like gun tactics or something, whatever it is that you're using, and you're getting 25% bonus on these rolls. That's pretty big as well, right? So the profiles support one another, and they support one another in not obvious ways. It's not like you can say, okay, right, I need better combat, therefore I haven't gone into Fist, but it will be directly affected by, I can just get meritocracy and that gives me 25% combat bonus. No, it's more subtle than that. It gives you stuff that kind of helps compensate and does other things, but it's not quite the same. I mean, man, this is if you are the sort of person who gets paralyzed by ever expanding complexity in a game, don't look too closely at this. Like, you're gonna get lost. I saw that. I don't want to ramble too much while I'm playing my turn, but I think you might find this interesting. Right? I saw somebody posted on the Explore Minute Discord a post made on CivFantatics forum recently, and it was talking about the reason why 4X games get boring. And this guy I disagreed completely. I thought it was absolute nonsense. It was pseudo game. It was like pseudo waffle that kind of made a bad point. I don't mean to be mean to anyone, but I think some people do that, and I think I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. I think I like to talk, you like to talk about things, and you might have a point, and it's probably not the smartest point, but because some fancy words, it kind of makes it sound smart. Well, anyway, this guy was saying, or this person was saying, the reason why 4X games get boring in the end game is because I think essentially boiling his argument down to something that's kind of easy to understand, and that gets the point, was 4X game UIs aren't good enough to be able to let the player play in the end game without the ever expanding exponential complexity of the game becoming too much for them. I think that's kind of the gist of it, right? Let me restate that again. I think it was kind of 2 points. One, 4X games are kind of viewed in terms of their early game mechanics that expand in exponential fashion to the point where the complexity is too much for people to handle. And two, the game UIs aren't good enough to be able to allow the player to be able to work with that level of complexity. I think that's utter bollocks. I think it's utter rubbish, and let me explain why. Right? Human beings have this ability to form symbols. That's how we work, right? Our brains work on abstraction. So when you're walking, let's say I'm walking to go and make myself a cup of tea, I'm not focusing on let's ignore the way that your muscles and your brain kind of work, right? But in the sense of you've learned a task and you do it autonomously. But the analogy I would have would be like, let's say I'm walking into the kitchen to make a cup of tea. I'm not thinking on the steps that I'm making. Maybe when I was a baby, I would have had to focus on, getting my motor conditions right so that I would be walking correctly. But when I'm walking to the kitchen, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about either making the cup of tea or something else. And So the idea that people analyze games and they think about games in the end game in the same terms that they think about the start is utter rubbish. And I think that, you know, even the stupidest of people will understand that at the end of a game, you're looking at a game in a completely different way. It's like you're looking at Shadow Empire at the start in terms of, okay, I'm trying to squeeze out some logistics. I need to put this road here. Yeah, I need to put this road here. And if I don't do it right, my people are going to starve. At the end of the game, you're thinking on a more level. You're starting to use this map, right? You're using strategic maps. So you're thinking, right, okay, I've got all this stuff that you've set up, all the logistics and that, for the most part, is running. There's a little bit of, there might be a little bit of tweaking here and there. But you're not doing that, right? You're thinking on terms of, and by the way, this applies to Civilization, it applies to any other game. It doesn't just apply to, this is a 4x general point I'm making, right? You're thinking in terms of who my neighbors are, what their relative army sizes are like, what my relations like with them. If I take this province here, what happens here? Okay, so do you get what I'm saying? It's the game isn't just some. You're not just thinking about it in terms of individual hexes by that point of the game, and every human does this naturally. So, he did make one good point, which was that UI issues, user experience or whatever that stupid term is that people use, UX, right? UI and UX stuff isn't going to fix that problem. Yeah, it doesn't, because it's not a problem. Humans don't work like that, and I think it's incredibly insulting. I was one of the most. I felt like I don't get insulted like on a personal level, but I just thought it was like just kind of assuming that humans are stupid, in the sense that we're like, that we. It seemed like a very, like, I mean, look, a bit, some disclosure here. I'm a bit autistic. In fact, I'm really quite high on the spectrum. And as you probably, some people might have picked that up in me. I'm quite autistic. And I don't like to throw that around too much but I want to make a point, because I want to say that because it kind of, it protects me from when I say, I know autism when I see it, yeah? I've got a close family member who's got autism. I know autism when I see it. And so it seems like a very, very autistic point to claim overall that other people see things in those fine detailed terms at the macro level as well. It makes no sense. I don't think that's how people work. The ever scaling, endless complexity of a game like Shadow Empire or Civ or something. If you're looking at, it is. If you're looking at if you're like Neo in the Matrix and you're constantly seeing the atoms in everything constantly, and you're not able to see the big, you're like constantly zooming in on the fine details. It would be like trying to do orienteering, except the only tool you've got is a telescope, so you're having to look at the ground through a telescope. It's like, what? No, people don't work like that. I'm kind of losing my point, but I wanted to kind of make that. I just thought that was an interesting observation, and honestly, I think the reason why 4X games get boring in the end games because 4X games are generally boring. I think the problem with boring 4X games is boring 4X games. It's not about. It's less about the actual setup of the way they are. The problem is that players lose their interest because the novelty of that particular game they kind of lose. I think it's more fatigue. I don't think it's anything to do with complexity. Like maybe I understand that some people might be going, oh, I don't like having to deal with 100 units. Yeah, that's something different. That's not the complexity. Okay, that's boredom. Because as Sun Tzu taught us, and this kind of thing will show you, here's a very visual representation of how military organization works. Right, this order of battle. The management of small units is exactly the same as the management of large. It's just a matter of division. It's how you divide it. And it's the same with playing these big games. Like, they are longer. So I honestly think that my personal opinion on this topic is the reason why people get fatigued with these games is not because the complexity gets so high so much. And certainly it's nothing to do with the fact that UIs are incapable of presenting game information to represent never-ending scaling complexity. I think that's nonsense. I think that it's because people want novelty in a game. They want to be entertained, and for a lot of people, when they're playing these games, unless they're the sort of person who plays the games over and over again, like I do with this, you are not gonna. You're kind of gonna see the novelty in the mechanics. Like, okay, right, I've seen how to do this now. I've had some fun building these bases up to high levels and seeing the results that they get. And then you get to the end game where the meta of the game has changed, and if you think that you're being stuck in like some early game thing, I don't know. I just think that I don't think human beings operate like that. I think most gamers, generally speaking, will move their thought process onto a higher, more abstract level where they're dealing with less of the physical game mechanics so much and more, and they're doing that stuff on autopilot. Like if you ever watch Lucid Tactics when he's playing a Dominions game, and on the rare occasions that he does a video where he just shows you him playing, well, it's not rare, but often he does summary kind of turns, where he'll just show, okay, this is what I did this turn. But if you watch the episodes where he's doing stuff like blood micromanagement in Dominions, you'll see he's talking about like big concept level stuff, high level stuff, while he's automatically moving these little units around and just picking up blood slaves and moving them. It's like I don't think the complexity of that is what is stopping people enjoying these games. I think it's the fact that the novelty starts to wear off, and it might be coupled with a little bit of like not really understanding how to, the idea of Sun Tzu's kind of division thing. I think like war games are very, very good for this because they give you these tools, like these order of battle tools, and they the whole idea of divisions and corps and divisions into regiments, into battalions and into regiments, and the way that it subdivides all the units actually gives you a system for doing it. I think in standard 4X games you don't get that. So I think on very, very big maps people they get a little bit overwhelmed. That's not that isn't the same thing as they're overwhelmed by the complexity of the game because they're thinking of things in terms of the very like the same very early game mechanics necessarily. There might be a little bit of that. I don't think that's why the games get boring though. I think the reason why people get fatigued with it is because they kind of don't really have the tools or training to kind of understand how to portion things off. Because it took me ages. I was the same. I also kind of gave up on 4X games when you had too many units to manage and too many cities. And it wasn't until I played that big Shadow Empire game for Explorminate where I really thought, I really started to understand, okay, we've got this front here, and this front is divided into these divisions, and I've got a name for this one. Like here's the third, here's the 3rd Machine Gun Infantry Brigade. It's led by Elmira Douglas. Elmira Douglas is interesting because she's got all this. She's a Cap 2, blah, 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 blah. And there's all this stuff that gets your imagination working, right? Shadow Empire particularly is great for this because it gives you tools to be able to really care about what your troops are. And then over this side, we've got, the 2nd Machine Gun Infantry Brigade. They're on the Eastern Front. Those guys have a job to do X. Do you see what I mean? Like the more effort you kind of put into the way that you think about these things, the easier it becomes, provided that you've also got the tools to be able to subdivide things. Now, here's where that guy's argument was really good, okay? Right? He's quite right that things like, so for example, I've kind of touched on this. War games have this military subdivision thing, and they usually have some sort of UI way of describing this. This is kind of what the guy's getting at, right? This is kind of what he's getting at. He's saying that you don't really have the tools to deal with things, but the way that he was kind of presenting it was like, okay, you don't have the tools to present these things in the terms of this rapidly scaling complexity that you're getting from the early game, which I think I just don't agree with. I don't think that human beings look at an entire task in the same way from start to finish, at the start as they do at the finish. That's just not true. So yeah, maybe there can be in modern 4X games, right? Maybe there can be maybe we need to start thinking about things like order of battles, maybe. Although I think you'll find that they exist in most 4X games. I think the thing is players just don't use them. I mean, look at Galciv. Galciv has that. Galciv has a fleet manager. Distant Worlds has a fleet manager. I don't really see a huge difference between the order of battle in this and the fleet manager in Distant Worlds. It's not a whole lot different. The only difference is that you might have sub fleets. So let's say you've got fleet A, and then technically you might have, let's say you've got a job to invade a system in Distant Worlds, and you've got 3 fleets doing it, and you might consider one of them to be kind of like a fleet that can split into 3. That doesn't give you necessarily the UI tools, but the UI allows you to do it. So I don't know. I think I'm stretching to try and help this guy's point, and I think it's, as I said, I think it's probably bollocks. But it's interesting. And what worries me, one of the reasons why I don't play very many straight 4X games anymore, is because I'm utterly bored by them, and I just think that they're all very much. I went through a phase of really being into Master of Orion clones, and once I found Remnants of the Precursors, which is basically the first Master of Orion game, just except better. Once I found that, I found the one that I was looking for, and I stopped playing the others. And I realised I was looking for a nice iteration of that particular game, and now I found it. I'm not that bothered about the others. And I think that the fact that every other game is kind of copying just, you know, the templates laid by Civ, you know, by Sid Meier's Civilization, by the two Simtex games, Master of Magic and Master of Orion, I think that's holding the genre back. And when I see comments like that on CivFantatics, where people are reaching and making these kind of, you know, they're looking for a fix for a problem that I'm not sure exists, to be honest. I think it exists, but I think the cure to it is right in front of us. It's like, use the tools that you've got, right, in these game UIs. Saying that the UIs aren't good enough to give you the, you know, they don't have the mechanics to allow the player to fully deal with the ever-scaling complexity of the endgame, because the endgame is just a... He didn't say this, but the implication was that the endgame is essentially confusing, boring, and annoying to deal with, and micromanagement heavy, because all it is just, you know, it's like, you know, you're not dealing with just 8 hexes anymore, or 7 hexes. Now you're dealing with 7 to the power of fucking whatever, you know? Like, you're dealing with a huge number of complex... No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Maybe if the game was a clicker game or something, where you've got to literally click on every hex, like, you know, like in order to get stuff done. You know, like, imagine if the Shadow Empire's zone map paint, you know, like when you're painting these zone like markers. Maybe if that was your game, yeah, by the end game it'd be horrible, because literally all it is, you know, an ever scaling, you know, scaling amount of micromanagement, or every scaling amount of work that you've got to do in order to make you think. That's not how these games work. Even the most poorly designed 4X game it understands that there's, you know, like an early game, a mid game, and an end game. And even the most stupid human will, I mean, and I don't mean to be rude there, by the way. This human doesn't really exist who plays these kind of games. Most people who play 4X games are pretty smart. They might be a bit misguided, or they might be, you know, gobshite people like me who think they know more about the, you know, the topic than they really do, or they like to talk about it, or they think they like to know, they think they know about it. I mean, I'll definitely put myself into that category, perhaps, but like, I don't think that these people are stupid, and I thought it was kind of insulting, because it's just like, no, you're just kind of assuming that humans are some weird like, you know, like a robot, like modern day robots. I've done a course in robotics and AI, and the challenges of getting a robot to understand things in the same terms as humans is like almost insurmountable at this point with the technology that we have. It's so hard, you know. Like, can a robot understand a symbol that represents you know, an overall plan? Kind of. Can it form one itself though, spontaneously? No. No, they can't do that at all. And humans don't work like that. Humans have got, like, honestly, we've got brains the size of planets, and they operate on levels that even people who think they know about brains just don't understand. Like the symbol forming, the power to form symbols. This is something Carl Jung said. And I'm sorry, I'm really going off on a tangent here. It's not really playing Shadow Empire, but I'm really going off on a tangent. But like, Carl Jung said that our symbol forming ability is what makes us special, in a sense. It's what gives us our abilities, and I think that it's true. So yeah, I don't know. Going back to Shadow Empire, I think what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to probably make this I'll probably make this a separate video for Explorminate or something, so people can listen to my nonsense without having to go, you know, like sit through it. I might put a timestamp in the video, so that if you want to cut out on my half-baked game design waffle, then you can. Anyway, where were we? Decisions. Schwarzmark turns extended against us. Let's have a look. I'm going to promote us, I think. I think raising... Mind you, I don't mind raising mind a little. That's not a big problem. Raising meritocracy is very, very useful at this point. Administration roles 40%. I don't remember seeing this one. Administrative competence. I mean, that is going to be good, I guess. Oh, we've already hit martial tournaments as well. I didn't realise that. So we've already got the increase in operational command roles. I mean, look, if I lose meritocracy at this point, I don't mind that much, actually. I don't mind. But meddling is a problem, and we will fail this role. Now this is the director of the Supreme Command Council. She's just got into this job. Got a decent role. Its difficulty is 120 plus. I mean, sorry, her oratory roll is 120. Sorry, 1d 100 plus 20. I wonder, can we play a card to deal with this? Have we got a shadow diplomat? Yes. Where is she? Let's see how that affects the dice roll. Oh, now we can't do it because we don't have enough political points. Oops. Oh dear. I made a mistake there, didn't I? Now we've got money, we could actually potentially get... The thing is, it kind of feels like I'm putting a lot of political points into this, and it might be difficult for us to pass. I could attach the advisor. What's the advisor's role like? Oratory role like, I wonder. Sorry, please forgive me. I just suddenly started daydreaming. I think my brain's not focused. I need to have some more tea or something. What's this guy's oratory role like? It's not bad. It's 28. What's that like compared to hers? See what it's like compared to hers. Much bigger. Okay. I think this will work. So if I call this guy, spend the political points to detach him, attach him to... Where is she? T-Star Waste. And then we just get a political point card and we play that. Have a look. I mean, I'll be interested to see what that roll would be now. 1d 100 plus 39. It's against difficulty 149. I still don't think we can do this, can we? Skill level 7. Leader stat bonus equals 10. Leader relation modifier 11. Leader skill fund. Okay, this is not including the shadow diplomat, nor is it including the advisor. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna, like, do you know what? Call it sunk cost, whatever. But I think I'm gonna try this. Getting some more political points isn't gonna hurt us anyway. And at the moment we've got money, and the only thing I was really saving my my points worth was for money. So let's see what we can do here. Let's try it. Let's go. Oh, okay, we failed. We got a bad roll. The difficulty is 149. Yeah, I don't think we could have done that. That was difficult. So it's turned cold. That's not the end of the world. Getting that did actually raise our meritocracy somewhat, which puts us now in the runnings for... Oh no, we need 70 for administrative competence. Yeah, that would be good, but we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so that was a bit of a... We spent some political points and a fate point on that. Probably not the best thing to do. I think sometimes, though, you know, you got to take some risks to make a fun game, right? I certainly, you know, there's a reason why I don't gamble, because I'm not very smart at it. Okay, let's get the Model Design Council down now. I don't want so many points in that at the moment. It's going to upset the person in there. In fact, I wonder if I should do it by a smaller amount than that. Let me just reset this. Let's drop this down to 15. We'll drop it down to 14. And I think we want to put some more into the Supreme Command Council. Probably. Or military research. I think those two. Let me just double check this. Yeah, right. So maybe Economic Council. I mean, the quicker I get, the better, you know, better weapons and stuff, the better. But look, it looks like we're rapidly outpacing our economic stuff with military. So, and actually, economic stuff might be useful at this point of the game. Let's drop 3 points off model design. I don't want to drop it too low. I'm just I've got to be a little bit careful. Have a look who we've got model design. Higgins White Rock. Okay, yeah, so I remember him. Militia, Commerce, and Mind. He might not be. He shouldn't be too hard to keep happy. So I don't mind dropping it a few points. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt our relations with him. Economic Council is definitely where I want to put some more into. Put some more into military research. Now let's just hold those. Staff Research Council do not care about too much. I've got to be honest with you. Secret Service Council is important. I think Interior and Supreme Command Council are probably going to be the big ones here. So something like that. Yeah, Giggins White Rock and Boba Alihans are not happy with us. The rest of us went up a little, and let's not, you know, let's have a look at the relationship of Boba Alihans now. Oh, he already liked us. Look, his relation's kind of high. His natural relation's 87. It's going to trend back up. That's okay. All right. So yeah, Sacred School has passed a motion. The average soldier morale goes up from 75 to 78. We can do this. That's one we can do, and we can probably do it by raising maybe, I don't know. We're probably gonna have to raise their money, raise their pay, which is I kind of don't want to do because money's kind of bad at the moment. As it looks all right at the moment, but next turn we're going to be back to minus 250 a turn, and I've got to remember that. Okay, let's finish this turn because this episode's dragging. Let's see what we got. I am gonna keep these guys down in this direction. What have we got in the troop replacements? We don't have anything, so let's get those troops up. We want buggies. I'm just going to do replacements this turn, I think, guys. That's it. So we've got a bunch of replacements. We've got loads of, look, we're doing well at the moment with regards to industrial points and metals. I think that while I've been struggling with money, I think you know, we're starting to find our feet is what I'm trying to say. Industry 2 is now finished. Next turn we're going to get loads. Supply base 2 is now finished too. So next turn we are going to get even more like points down here. Look, we've got loads down here now. I think what we can do is let's spend some more of these points placing some of the troops that they're going to be the rifle 1s. Looks like we've pretty much moved to rifle 2s now. Those are MG2s. We can get these we can start getting these guys back down here now doing the job that they were supposed to be doing. So we've just got to wait for these replacements to come in. I think that this amount of points will pretty much allow us to. Let's put a little block in there. We don't need that many to go into that place. Yeah, I think we're going to be able to get replacements. Is what I'm saying. So hopefully these guys will all get their replacements next turn. I'm going to move them further down. I'll keep them on the road. But let's just block that off. Yeah, so we've just got mostly on this road. And I want them to pick their replacements up, then they can get back into the field. These have got rifle 2s, look. Let's see if we can do a mass upgrade on them. Two units and one OHQ. Okay. That's 1200. Alright. There we go. So now we're up to rifle 3s. These are the automatic rifle, padded envirosuit. These are somewhat more useful, I'd say, now. Excellent job. Okay, so those guys are going to get back on with their original job of trying to explore down this way. By the way, Trifler, if you're watching, look. The AI also expands with infantry. Just saying, man. I'm just saying. Okay, let's see what we've got down here. Get some roads down. I'm not going to build anything this turn. I think I'm just going to let my... one of the things that costs money is paying huge amounts of workers. So when you're building lots of stuff, that's one of the reasons why you often get these huge amounts. You're having to pay hundreds, like thousands of workers every time you're building something. So just be aware of that. It's I'm gonna get these guys up here. Don't want to lose this military vessel and its research bonus. Okay, so yeah, we're about done for this turn. There's a rifle 2 as well. Can we get... Maybe we can do some of these into rifle 3 as well. No, we don't have enough resources. Can we get any of them? Yep.
We'll go.
Okay. Now, I think that this kink in the road here, or this turning in the road, is actually preventing us from being able to get decent amount of pickup. I'm gonna rename these, by the way. What's this? Vicer. I'm just gonna call these the Vicer Defense Third in. Oops. Okay, that just gives me a bit of information on what they are. In fact, I might just drop the India even. All this stuff, by the way, is what I was kind of getting at when I was saying, when you're one of the ways that people, I think, they're not some players don't seem to be doing when they're playing these games, and they're getting bored of like large maps, is the more effort you put into your game, the slower you play it, essentially, the more invested you'll be and the less likely you are to get bored. That's something I've discovered. Think about playing 4X game is like cooking onions. You cannot cook onions slow enough, and it's the same with 4X games and strategy games in general. The slower you play them, the better they are. Okay, so this is a guard battalion for. Oops, hold on. This is a guard battalion for Corona. Oh, I can't remember which was. Was it second? Let me just have a look. I'll be able to figure it out from the. When I cancelled it, it changed the name. It didn't allow the name to revert to what it was. That's a bit odd. So in Corona, what's this? Yeah, I think it was the second, wasn't it? I kind of like to keep the user designations that it gives you. There we go. This is useful for me because I find that later, if something happens, right, and I just start throwing units at it, I find that then I've got these kind of floating units, and I just end up not bringing them back to where they're supposed to be. So yeah, I find it kind of useful to do that. All right, I'm going to bring these guys down here. I definitely want them to get pickup. Okay, they're not going to be able to do that. The sooner I can get these guys back out on the field, the better. Because I want them back here, and I don't want to lose too many troops here. Okay, guys, I think that's going to be the end of the episode. Thanks for sticking with me while I was chatting about stuff that probably, maybe you're not that interested in, but I don't know. I think people like to listen to me sometimes. They like to listen to certain things. The fact that our podcast is as popular as it is suggests that at least some of the stuff that I say people are interested in. So, yeah. Tell me what you think in the comments anyway, and I'll catch you later. Take care.